At this point, we've learned that most stories follow a common pattern. Plot diagrams, such as Freitag's pyramid, have been used to track plot development. Starting from the beginning of a story when readers are first introduced to the characters and setting in the exposition, a story develops through a series of events in the rising action towards a moment of the highest tension and excitement, also known as the climax. This is also referred to as the turning point, when the story peaks and changes. After the climax, a series of events follow called the falling action that eventually lead to closure in the form of a resolution. At this point, any remaining mysteries or questions are usually answered or explained in the denouement. In this video, we will be focusing on the inciting incident. The inciting incident refers to a specific moment when the protagonist is thrust into the main action of the story. This is also when the main conflict is thrust upon our main character. For example, in Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games, the inciting incident is in the moment when Prim's name is drawn and Katniss volunteers as tribute. From this moment on, Katniss is lurched forward into the main action, the adventure of the story, as she must represent her district in the annual Hunger Games, a bloody battle among children for glory and sacrifice. Here's another example. In the movie The Wizard of Oz, the inciting incident is in the moment when Dorothy's house is picked up by a cyclone and dumped into the land of Oz. From this moment on, Dorothy is pushed into the main action, the adventure of the story, as she must now encounter munchkins, witches, a talking scarecrow, a tin man, and a cowardly lion in a faraway land. Here is yet another example. In Suzanne Collins' Gregor the Overlander, the inciting incident is in the moment when Gregor falls down the air duct in the basement laundry room, plummeting down into Underland. From this moment on, Gregor is pushed into the main action, the adventure of the story, as he must now navigate this subterranean world on a prophesied quest with creatures and mysteries. In all of these examples, the inciting incident occurs early in the plot. In fact, in Gregor the Overlander, the inciting incident occurs exactly on page 13. In following the pattern of story plot development, after the reader meets the characters and is introduced to the setting in the exposition, the inciting incident must occur to launch the story forward. And so, here are some characteristics to keep in mind regarding the inciting incident. It happens early in the story. It also happens to the protagonist, which is our main character, also known as the hero. The inciting incident is not something that the character does or pursues. It happens to the protagonist, usually outside of their control. It pushes the protagonist into the main action of the story. It pushes the protagonist into the main conflict or the problem. Here are some other examples of inciting incidents. In The Incredibles, the inciting incident is the moment when the flood of lawsuits forces the superheroes into hiding. In Monsters Incorporated, the inciting incident is the moment when the little girl escapes into Monstropolis and discovers Sully. In Toy Story, the inciting incident is the moment when Buzz arrives and disrupts Woody's place. Can you identify the inciting incident in any of these stories, books, or movies? From the stories that you're familiar with, try to identify the inciting incident in as many stories as you can. From The Lion King, from Despicable Me, Kung Fu Panda, Finding Nemo, Big Hero 6, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Take a moment to try identifying these inciting incidents in your reader's notebook. You can pause the video at this time. And lastly, can you identify the inciting incident in your own independent novel? At this point in your reading, you have passed the exposition. You have been introduced to the characters. You have been introduced to the setting. And most likely at this point in your reading, you've probably passed the inciting incident. So can you go back and think, which specific moment best represents the inciting incident? Look back over your notes at the characteristics of the inciting incident and the examples, and record your answer in your reader's notebook. Also explain why you think this is the inciting incident.